welcome to the Leadership Actually. It's not love, it's leadership. Welcome, Lisa Powney.
Welcome, Lee Rogers. I didn't forget who you are, I know. And how the devil are you?
I am Pucker.
Yeah, Pucker.
Yeah, my football team's doing better.
Yeah, bar.
The training for the cycling ride,
Oh, yeah. How's
Land's
that going?
End to John O'Groats, is going well.
That's good.
It's progressing. I'm getting
How many miles are you up to?
Well, I'm doing kind of 15 miles each day.
Oh, that's
on the
really
bike,
good.
and I'm doing gym sessions, so fitness is way better. People are signed up now to do it with me, so that's exciting. I still got a lot to do on the fundraising part, but you know what? It's a real life challenge, this, and I still to this day don't know whether I can do it, but I'm giving it my all.
Amazing.
It's going to be emotion.
Totes emotion.
Absolutely. How are you?
I'm good. But weather-wise today, so yeah, we've had a bit of a human moment getting here today, haven't we? Definitely, it's good, and we're a good few weeks into the year, and I promised myself no New Year's resolutions, but I didn't start as I mean to go on. I think I left everything at the end of last year and just went, oh, right, I'll pick that up and I'll book things into the new year. And I always talk about like the busyness stuff. Well, I got myself into the busyness cycle within a few weeks. Thought, that's what's going on here. So we've had to have a word with myself and put some of that practice in place, but that's good. And I got a new hobby. You know,
go on,
it's not qigong. Not qigong or
good.
Tai Chi, because you can't say that, so I changed it.
What's your new hobby?
I've joined a choir.
Very nice.
Yeah. Joined a choir, have a lovely sing-song. It's more, I'm in competition with my son, I think. He's only 8, but he's in a choir. And so I thought, impress him, not competition, impress him.
Oh, you can do a duet.
Yeah, we could. I'd love that.
Get on TikTok or other social media channels.
Yeah. He gets very impressed if I sing Greatest Showman songs. So
it's a belter.
Yeah, it's belters. Yeah, so yeah, love that. There's loads of us, so it's very heartwarming. It's really lovely to have a sing song for a couple of hours.
I think it's good for your cockles. See, I'm like the world's worst singer. My daughter actually says, "No, Dad, like just no." Right? That's what she says to me when I try and sing. And I go to church, bless me, and I sing my heart. And it's so nice sometimes to shut up. I stop singing and just listen to actually how it should be sung. It's wonderful because I'm sure I'm tone deaf. But
I love it. But I've joined the Sopranos, and I don't think I am one. But the people I know are, so I just try.
Is that like a mafia group? what does that mean? Sorry.
Did you sing hi?
Oh, right, okay.
There we are. So yeah, but I'm enjoying that.
That's definitely lost on me.
So there we are. That's my latest fad.
Nice. Okay. Shall we introduce our guest today?
Absolutely. I'm very excited because our guest today is a fellow Welshie, so from South Wales. So I love that. For those who don't know, I'm from South Wales too. So heart and passion in there. And probably we met a little while ago. And this is one story that I heard, I was listening to, and I think we both ended up in tears. So I'll introduce in a minute. And I guess that's not where we thought it would go, but such an amazing backstory. So I'm going to introduce you. Hi, Joan Jones. How are you?
Hi, I'm really good, thanks. Thanks for inviting me. This is really exciting, actually. Something different. I enjoy, gaining more experiences. So this is something I never even thought about until I met you. You're right, it was an emotional meeting.
It was.
And I think I don't stop to think about my story because I'm too busy.
Yeah.
And you stopped me in my tracks. And as I went over it, and I hadn't been for some time, it did tug at the heartstrings.
It did.
Surprised me very much. But so thanks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. And I can't wait for you to share some of that. Really, really touched me and also inspired me massively. So I think it's a story that other people need to hear. But I'll give you your official welcome or official introduction, if that's all right.
That's absolutely fine. Let's go with the flow.
But Joan, you are a powerhouse in manufacturing, and I think that's how we first connected, because there's lots of clients we both work with in that space and have a real passion for manufacturing, but actually female leadership in manufacturing as well. So, and you've really been a spokeslady in that space and met a lot of those challenges. You've gone on to run your own business. You're a consultant. You're a mentor, and you're forever passionate about leadership and, in particular, in manufacturing. So we'll explore a little bit more of that. But before we do, we always talk about the messy moments actually in life, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently today because I think your backstory explains it all. And we're going to start there, and then we'll, as you said, we'll go with the flow of where it happens. But it's a really interesting story about how you got into manufacturing. And I'd really like you to tell us a little bit about where did that come from? How did you get into it? Where did it all start?
So I'm one of 7 children.
Yeah, wow.
And that in itself is tough. Wonderful, but tough. I had a brilliant upbringing. I always felt things were a little bit unfair in the household.
Yeah.
My family called me Joni, and it was always Joni will do this, Joni will do that. I was the middle child.
Yeah.
I believe that's something to do with it. But anyway, I didn't enjoy washing the dishes. But when I did it, my dad said, "My word, you did a wonderful job there."
Oh.
I loved that.
Yeah.
That gave me great pleasure. So I always wanted to please. That was just in me. But I always had a child on my hip. There was 3 younger children.
Yes.
And I felt I was always the one that had to go to the shop, always the one that had to wash the floor, or I was always that one that was, and I had an elder sister, and I always felt it was unfair. And I've carried that into my life and fairness. I'm passionate about fairness, and only recently doing a little bit of research, I found out that that's where that's come from.
Wow.
Because it's an overriding factor when I'm dealing with people. Anyway, we had a wonderful, wonderful childhood. Very lucky. My dad had his own business. We were very lucky. Not wealthy,
No,
but very lucky. In love. It was a very warm, loving household.
yes.
And at the age of 16, my mum died.
Wow.
Just out of the blue. And that was a shock, and it wasn't really said. It was taken for granted. My mum was 42.
No age.
And I was 16. And it was taken for granted that Joni would step in. So there was not going to be any further education. I did quite well at school. But I didn't think of it. I did it.
Yeah.
A trait that have got me in so much trouble. But I did it. And unfortunately, tragically, 6 months later, my dad died.
Oh, my lordy.
It was a very, very difficult 6 months, 6 to 8 months. And coping with him and his anger in his grief, and not the dad I knew and adored, was tough.
Yeah.
Was tough. But I never thought anything other than getting it done. Silly things I had to get over, but I didn't think you've got to get over this. You just do it.
Yeah.
Sometimes Dad would go missing. He'd be at the graveside. We wouldn't know where he was.
Oh.
Very, very tragic time.
Yeah.
And I was with him when he died. And he said to me, "You've got to keep this family together." And that's what I find a bit tough now. Don't know why after all these years. But anyway, and that was my goal.
Yeah.
I always, and I took it into working life, you've got to have an objective. Because what drives you if you don't? And I fought social services. I was 16, I wasn't allowed to have them.
Wow.
They wasn't going to give me any money. I think I had 10 shillings a week to look after them. The house was falling down, but I couldn't let people see that because they would have put us in a home.
Yeah.
So we did it. I was the household manager, but I needed money. We were hungry.
Yeah.
After a year, we were in deep trouble. Electricity cut off. Bad times.
Yeah.
So an elderly lady in the street told me that there was a cleaning job going in a manufacturing company.
Oh, okay.
That's where it started. So I wasn't proud to do it. I'm sad that I felt that because I don't feel it now. I was quite ashamed that I was this young whippet of a girl leaving the house at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
While the elder, you know, the 6 kids were there, and the older boys who went out to work, they didn't leave for work till I got home. So I did 6 till 8 cleaning in the morning. And I did, and then when I cooked the dinner, tea, got them all to school. The youngest was only 6.
Yeah.
5 or 6. And so then I cleaned in the evenings as well. I learned I could do 2 lots. So I cleaned 6 till 8 in the morning, and then 6 till 8 at night in a couple of manufacturing companies. I was always jealous, and I think that's the right word, although it's not supposed to be a very nice word. Envious, maybe a kinder word.
Yes.
Of the young girls that were coming in, and I didn't feel part of that society really. I was with these elderly ladies cleaning with my bucket and mop, and I always felt uncomfortable about that, and I hid it, but I earned money.
Yeah.
And I needed money. So it was survival. It was always survival. But I was the point I think I'm trying to make is that I envied those young girls, and I thought they'd made it going into a factory.
Yeah.
And sitting on a line, and I think it was a knitting machine company, and I wanted to knit. I wanted to sit on those lines. I wanted to, be with those girls, but I was a loner.
Yeah.
I had to be, because I had a very different life. So I sort of, my friendships sort of filtered off. And it was bringing the kids up, and that's what it was. But that was the starting of my manufacturing desire, if you like. And it was all about wanting to be normal. I think it was about that. Yeah. So, we did it. And that was so I went from that cleaner to what you mentioned, being, I was actually shortlisted for Businesswoman of the Year.
Amazing.
About 8 years ago. I didn't win. I wasn't in a good place mentally at the time. But, that was all right, wasn't it?
Yeah. I was all right. You've done amazing.
I was all right from that cleaner.
What, there is more to this story that, you've just started us off, but what a start, such a tragic start. But already you see some of those seeds around what made you, and how you turned some of that around, and where that passion came from manufacturing. And maybe not everybody would have the same level of passion, but because of where you were in your life at that time, that became your desire to do that. So how did you get in? So how did you make that step from being a cleaner into manufacturing?
It was many years later. So I was 16 when my mum died. I called it a proper job. I actually got my first proper job when I was 25. I always knew that I wanted children. So I had all these children, penniless, really, really sad, hard times.
Yeah.
Christmases were horrific. And all that gave me a drive for a better quality of life. I was not... that's what I thought. So if I was going to be an operator on a line, that was my ambition. My ambition was to be that operator. Yeah. My ambition when I was 16 was to be that cleaner and do it properly, so that I would get more work. It was always about, well, what could I do? I could do this better. So you're right, that was the seeds. But so I was 25 before I got a job, no parents to help me with the grandkids. I had 2 of my own kids. There were about 9 of us in the house, I think, at the time. Chaos.
Oh, how many bedrooms? Chaos. Give us a picture of the house.
3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Just chaos.
Yeah.
Just, you couldn't never find 2 shoes together or a pair of socks. It was, But
Crazy.
you just survived. And so when I was 25, I was very shy. I had huge self-confidence problems. I had an enormous problem with blushing, which I thought would hold me back. And it didn't hold, I found a way, but it was crippling.
Yeah.
It was crippling. And men were harsh in those days. And I got to fear men.
Yes.
And the blushing was exaggerated. And I remember one manager saying to me, was I abused when I was young because I had a problem with blushing when he spoke to me. He said, obviously you were abused when you were young, things like that. But you carry those problems. So when I was 25, I didn't know how to get a job.
No.
I didn't know how you got into that factory from the cleaner. How did you get into sitting on those lines and having fun and working at the same time? I didn't know. So I went around. I was actually brought up in Newport, and I went around. I looked in the yellow pages at all the manufacturing companies,
Wow.
as we did, and I picked about 6, and I went and knocked on all their doors. And I didn't know that that was an odd thing to do. And I was looked at quite strangely. I was embarrassed about it, but I did it. And I chose the time when the children, my son was in school and my youngest daughter went to nursery, full-time nursery. So I was able to get a full-time job, paid a neighbour to help me with the children, going back and forth to school with them.
Yeah.
So I knocked on a company called Standard Telephones and Cables, and there was a security guard outside, and there were 2 in there, and they were, when I look back, they were obviously intrigued.
Yeah.
And they asked me what I wanted, and I said, "Have you got any jobs going?" I asked the security guys. That's how, that's how far behind the times. I didn't know what was going on really, except I was going to work.
Yeah.
And they were tickled pink about it, and they said, "Do you know what? For the cheek of you walking in here and asking us, can we give you a job?
Yeah.
We don't think you want to be a security man." So we'll go and talk to the HR guy. And this guy, Patrick, they came out, HR manager, and he was looking at me quite strange too. And he called me in and he said to me, "Okay, so you're looking for a job?" He said, "That's interesting. Not experienced this before." He said, "So have you got a CV?" I blushed crazily because I didn't know what a CV was.
Yeah.
And I said, and he saw my embarrassment and he felt it. And he was incredibly kind. And that also is a massive thing for me, to be kind in my career. And he said to me, "Oh, don't worry about the CV." He said, "Tell me, what can you do for us? Do you know what we do here?" I said, "No." I said, "I know you manufacture." And he said, "Okay, that's fine. So you're 25. Tell me what have you been doing?" And I was too embarrassed to tell anyone I'd been cleaning. So I got myself in a dreadful state. So I ended up telling him I was cleaning, blushing, very uncomfortable. And he said, "Okay, so," and he persisted. He said, "So why did you clean? Why didn't you go and look for a job when you left school?" And I was trying to hide it. Yeah. And I then told him my story. So I'd forgotten an important part. When he said to me, "What can you do for us?" I said, "I'm a grafter."
Yeah.
And I think that's a key, and that's the word I used. And he said, "Yes, okay, I accept that, but what can you do for us?" "I'm a grafter. I won't let you down, and I'm a grafter." So anyway, then we got on to, I told him my story, and he said to me, "Could you start Monday?" Well, I bounced out of his office, and I started Monday. And that the break that gentleman gave me, I was to meet him. He contacted me many years later, as I was going up the ranks in manufacturing, and said to me there was a production manager's job going in a Japanese factory in Cardiff. And he said, "You'll be ideal," because I did very well in his company. And I went, and there were 11 gentlemen around the table interviewing me, all Japanese. There were 2 British guys there, but the rest were Japanese. It was the most daunting, embarrassing experience of my life. It was crazy, but they were, the Japanese were starting to create businesses, and I think they were excited about it, and everything was sort of overdone in those days. And I left the meeting room, and I got on the motorway, and I had a call from this gentleman that gave me my break and gave me this opportunity. And he said, "Joan, for the first time in my career, I'm going to tell you how it is. You haven't got that job, and it's because you're a woman."
Wow. And
I feel bad that I put you through that, for that outcome. And I said, "It's okay. Don't worry about that. I'm working. I'm doing all right, but I'm very, very, I was, you know, I was really impressed that he thought I could have even done that job. That was a compliment to me. So men had a massive influence in my career and was to stop me. But every time they stopped me, I'm not against men. I've worked with some wonderful men.
Yeah.
But every time I was faced with men not appreciating women in business, I moved. I took action.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what, you know, that before I'm going to want to ask you further questions, but I just want to stop and say already, you know, in terms of your story, still makes me emotional, you know, and, you know, the big words that you pull out around fairness and kindness, and that gentleman who, you know, who listened and digged in terms of your story.
He gave me a chance.
He gave you a chance, and actually the power of telling your story, as hard as that was and as vulnerable as you were, actually took you forward and changed your life, actually, in being able to do that.
And can I just add into that?
Sure.
Because it resonates today.
Yeah.
Like, how many people go through university, even, or go straight from school or college, and that's all they want. All they want is a chance to prove themselves. And it seems to me that it's harder and harder to even get an opportunity at a Saturday job or a Sunday job, and you do have to graft and hassle and like find your way in the world. So it seems like the course of time is actually still prevalent in many ways.
I think you're right, Lee. I think this, and I've no idea what my impact will be, but I've had so many tremendous opportunities to give people a chance.
Yeah.
And I have stories and people that still keep in touch with me now, which is amazing that we have that opportunity, that their lives would have been very different had I not given them that chance, had I not, followed through with their hang-ups or situation. And I've met many, I've delivered thousands of MBQs in my own business. And I've met many of youngsters in universities, and they're missing that it's not all about academia. It's not always about getting a first. And there are also parents that get misled on that as long as they work, as long as they get the results, I'll be fine. It's not all about that.
Because in my mind, we used to talk about this in our talent leadership team, and we'd say it gets you the interview, but it doesn't get you the job.
100% right. I'd like to just carry that around with me when I'm talking to youngsters particularly. You have to show who you are. Authenticity is massive with me. Tell someone you can graft. What's wrong with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell someone that I don't know, but I can learn.
Yeah.
And I want to add value, and I want to make a difference. Sitting opposite a potential recruiter and saying, I've got a first in a degree, doesn't cut it, doesn't sell you. But there is a huge part today of society that believes that is first and foremost, and it's not. I must add there that I think I carried a huge hidden hang-up about working eventually with MDs who I was terrified they would find out I didn't have a degree.
Yeah.
And I was. And I hid it. Didn't particularly lie, but I didn't come forward and say I didn't have that. Both my children went through university, both did very well. And I always said to them, the minute you don't want to do it, it's okay.
Yeah, and I kind of have this motto of application, 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 because it doesn't matter whether you have or you haven't. It's what you do with it that counts ultimately.
I like that. Yeah, my kids, as I once got a job throughout. I sort of went from that cleaner to MD. I didn't do it overnight, and most of it didn't kick off until I was 50, if I'm honest.
Yes.
50 years of age. When my kids had left university and I didn't have that bind with the financial commitments for that. But I can remember getting or being successful in achieving a job off the shop floor, from senior supervisor to training manager.
Yeah.
My God, every job I got that was next to the cleaner, to the operator, to the supervisor, I thought, you made it now, Joan. And but there's rules, isn't there? Or people think there are statements that we make that are pretty clever. You always got to have your plan.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but my ambition always took me to the next level.
Yeah.
I made sure I did that first level. I was a good cleaner.
Yeah.
I was a good operator, and it mattered to me. But when I found myself as a training manager and a computer was put in front of me, they turned it on because they actually give me my email address and they said, there you go, off you go. And I thought, I don't know how to use a computer, but I'll find out.
Wow.
And I wait till so I was finding my way around this computer. I waited till they all went home, and I called my son who lived in France, in Lyon, and I said, Ian, I'm in an office, I'm on my own, I don't know how to turn off the computer. I've been told don't turn it off because things can go wrong. Tell me what to do, talk me through it. And he talked me through turning off the computer. I came the next day and I was able to turn on the computer. And they've very much been my go-to place when I needed to do something that I felt I didn't have the educational background to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's nothing that's held you back, in terms of you've just got up there and done it. And I think it's really important that we hit that 50 story, because we talk about being female in manufacturing, and that was a key point where it really didn't go your way and you did something about it. So can you tell us what happened around there? What was going on?
I worked in many companies and never dreamt I would have my own business. But at the age of 50, I'd been working my way up in a company. I was there 6 years, and I'd gone from, I joined there as a junior supervisor, and I was promoted to senior supervisor. And it was a Japanese company, and I had great experience there. And lots of trade. The Japanese taught me how to consider that operator that was putting 1,000 screws in a hi-fi system during the day, and how that affected her hands, and they would make you sit there and do it, so that you knew, and you would come up with a solution to be kind and to make sure you could do the best you could to make that job efficient, but look after the operator. And I loved that. I loved that, having access to that and being able to make a difference. But I was promoted to senior supervisor, and my line was, best quality, best numbers, best morale. The culture was brilliant on my line. And I knew this, and I was very proud of it. And the Japanese come for a visit, and when they came for a visit, you all disappeared because they didn't like to see many people around. So we all had to disappear, and the director would take them around, and it was a very, very, very official type thing that happened in Japanese companies. And had to be respectful of their culture too. And after this one visit, the director called me, which was unusual because the director didn't really speak to the senior supervisor, and said, well, we've had tremendous feedback about your line. In fact, they want the supervisor who created that to go to Japan and mirror image it in their company in Japan.
Amazing.
At this point, I think I'd only ever been to Spain once. I didn't even know if I had a passport.
Love you, Jane. Love it.
But anyway, I told all my family. Every point of my life, and there's lots of them like that. Every event, I thought, you've made it, and those words resonate with me too, because it was enough.
Yeah.
My hunger came from wanting to do better, really, and to learn. Anyway. Having told all my family and friends, very proud of it I was, and I was summoned to the director's office, and the director said to me, this is very hard for me, Joan, but I know you will understand. We can't let you go to Japan because it has to be a male. So we want you to train a male supervisor, Colin or whatever his name was, we want you to train Colin, what you did, how you did it, what your thoughts were. We want you, and we know you'll do a good job at that, Joan, because we know you do. And I did, but I was devastated. So another knock was to come in that job, which was to really boost me into many, many opportunities. And that was, we started delivering MBQs, and the companies that were coming in didn't care about the operators, didn't care about making a difference. It was embarrassing to see that they were just doing the paperwork, getting the paperwork signed and running out and costing time in the business and costing money. And I was fully aware of that. And so I went to the director and I said, let me run a training school here. So I went to the awarding bodies, I got qualified, I started a training business within the business.
Wow.
And we reaped the rewards, and the operators were developed to their full potential, some going on to be supervisors, etc., etc. But I loved it.
Yeah.
But it was appraisal time, and appraisal time was linked to money in those days. And there were 8 supervisors, 7 men and myself. And I was the first one called in for my appraisal. And I was told, we're so proud of you, you've done amazing. And the return on the training school is amazing. And we're really sorry to tell you this, but the business isn't doing very well, so there's no pay increase this year. I was struggling for money.
Yeah.
I was, the kids my daughter was still going through university. I didn't have the next month's mortgage. I had managed to buy my own house, which was
amazing.
But that was amazing, but I was really struggling still. And I'm coming up to 50 now. And I said, okay, I understand. And I did understand, and I thought maybe I could get a part-time job because I needed more money. Anyway, I was in passing, one of the male supervisors was coming out of his appraisals, and he said to me, and this is a term we use in the valleys, cracking pay rise that, Joe.
Yeah.
And this line was really underperforming. And I said, I'm pleased for you. Yeah. I was taken aback, and I said, well done, I'm pleased for you. He said, I really wasn't expecting that. He said, that's made my holiday. And I went off very distraught, really, and spent 2 weeks in my garden, which I'd planned to do for my holidays, and thought about what I was going to do.
Yeah.
So I went in and I put a grievance in. And I spoke to the manager, and I said, I need to understand why that happened. I told him how I found out. And he said, well, firstly, that's private stuff, Joan. And I said, look, I want to talk reality here. Yeah. I know it. This is how it happened. I've done nothing wrong. I want to know why. And he said, but I didn't share my story with anyone. I didn't think I had to, actually. No. I didn't want people to know I didn't have any money. And he said to me, you have to understand, Joan, that X, I'll call him X has got 2 children. He's the breadwinner. And I said, okay, thanks for that. And I left the room. And I knew I had to leave that day. Yeah. I left, I gave my notice in that day. Pride, gave my notice in that day. And I had a shed in my garden, and I scrubbed that shed out like you wouldn't believe. It was full of oil. I went to the bank and I said, can I borrow £1,000? I'm starting a business tomorrow. They said, wow. What's the business name? And I said, I hadn't thought of that. And they said, well, tell you what, it's quite intriguing listening to what you're going to do, because I told him my plan. And he said, you think of a business name and come back tomorrow and we'll think about this £1,000. I called my kids, think of a business name. You need one by the morning. I got an appointment, I got to go in. I went in and I gave him my business name, and he said, okay, you got the £1,000, I think you're going to smash it.
No, isn't that incredible?
This is like Dragon's Den.
Isn't this incredible?
It was ahead of Dragon's Den.
So in my garden shed, eventually, I went to all the companies. I'd worked in a few companies and I had a good reputation, and I knew that. When I was faced with not being given a pay rise because I was a woman, I thought about putting a law. I thought about taking them to court.
Yes.
Which is totally not what I do. And I thought about what would that do for me. It would give me a reputation in a very, very small world with all the people that I'd made. I had brilliant contacts in the awarding bodies, the government. They all knew me because of delivering the MBQs. They all give me, they gave me opportunities.
Yes.
And I thought, if I take them to court, I'm going to absolutely ruin any opportunity. The only thing I can do is start a business. And if my business fails, I'll get a job somewhere else because I won't have a bad reputation. So, I was having meetings in my living room with about 5 government officials from South Wales government, discussing contracts. And eventually I got to 12 staff in my business. And I had an office. They were not all in my shed.
No,
I
good.
had an office. and it was brilliant, but I worried. I worried about the validity of some of the delivering the companies that were delivering MBQs. I worried about its authenticity, and it did cause me sleepless nights. So I decided I wanted to go back into manufacturing. So I was doing some work in a company called Airborne Systems, who made parachutes for the military.
Yeah.
And I went in there. I was offered operations director role in there. And I said, I don't think this is a permanent position for me, but I'll come in and I'll turn it around because they had problems, and I'll find my successor because I actually don't know what I was going to do. So I did that in, I think I was there about a year. And I said, I'm ready to go now. And I was about 53, 54. And they said to me, where are you going? And I said, I don't know. My next venture. And they said, would I go out to New Jersey?
Yeah.
And work on their sister company that wasn't doing very well. So I went out to New Jersey. I called my son on that Friday afternoon and I said, I'm going to New Jersey on Sunday. They've got me an apartment and a car, and I'm moving out there. And my son said, Mum, this is emigrating. I think you normally discuss this with family. And I said, well, let's just try it and see what happens. And on Sunday I was on the plane on my way to Philadelphia. And yeah, I mean, that shortens the story a lot because I worked all over Europe, and I eventually did get to Japan to do some training.
I love that.
I went on my own and I did a couple of weeks there. So I did get to Japan. But yeah, it's difficult to capture all the issues, but being around a board table with men, especially in America, was I always felt that I wasn't equal.
Yeah.
But I was never equal. And I was always going to find that way, always.
Yeah.
And I did. You know, and I think I got more, the resilience was just coming in abundance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, you know, I knew, and I've met people with some really, really sad stories. And I say to them, what I first want to tell you, I haven't got the solution, but I need you to know there is a way.
Yeah.
And we'll find it, and it's a win-win. We'll find the win-win.
Wait. And you know what? That is the moral, isn't it?
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
It's been in my head since you've started, and you've been so inspiring.
So inspiring.
Genuinely,
Thank you.
Genuinely heartfelt.
I'm always, I do experience that comment a lot in my career. And what I love about that is I love people to feel inspired, because you can be, no matter what's in front of you.
Inspired in more ways than you know, actually, in terms of growing up in a house of 9. So I get it. My stepdad passed away when I was about 21 in difficult circumstances. So, you know, sort of make you reevaluate and not quite looking after. So lots of connections. What I want to know is, what do your siblings say about you today, and do they recognise what you did for them?
Yes, I was with one of my younger brothers. He came to stay with me the weekend, and they're continuously shocked at what I'm going to do next. And I'm very different to all of them. There's no comparison. We're all grafters. That's a link. We're all grafters in our own way. They're eternally grateful. They have their own sadnesses to deal with. Just this week, my younger brother, who was 6 when my parents died, got some connections who brought some of our pictures to life. We haven't got very many, via AI.
Yeah.
And so they're constantly looking for that. But I think I am, for them, I think I am that central go-to person. And they say, wonderful, you know, the brother that I was with the weekend they rebelled. They really struggled. They rebelled. They were angry. They didn't like the fact that I was, all of a sudden, their sister, who was their equal, was now responsible for anything that they ate and wore and did. And to say to them, you'll be in by 10 o'clock was not easy.
No.
Or you're going to school. No, I'm not. It was a fight. And they think of those horrific times now where we fought. We fought like brother and sisters do. We fought.
And that strikes me that was the absolute essence of your leadership journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, probably. I'm, you know, as you get older, you reflect. This has given me an opportunity to reflect, which I don't give it time, really. Not saying I should, I don't know. But it's given it time, and it does, you know, it does make me feel a bit emotional, which surprises me, because I didn't have time for that, really. I didn't have time to think about that, and some of the horror stories, oh my word, I don't think I could deal with that. I don't think I could deal with that now.
You are an amazing guest, and we could speak
you.
all day.
Yes.
But you know, we're gonna wrap up. One final thought or question from you, Lisa, if that's all right.
Joan, you are a total inspiration. People walk into your life for a reason, and you know I am eternal grateful that I got the opportunity to meet you and hear that story. It makes me totally emotional and inspires me, but also I see the inspiration for others. We're on here as well for people out there, leaders, you know, who are going through their own things, and I think they'll take so much from that story. And also in manufacturing, you know, it's still going on. You know, there's still a lot of leaders that I work with in that arena, and female leadership is still a hard place to be. It's, you know, I think things have
really
moved.
Is, and it is improving, but I think there's still a fight.
There is.
And I think in all different situations in life of equal opportunities, and going along that issue, we still have to be aware, and we have to build awareness, and we have to work with those situations, because people will lose opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's just not okay, is it?
No.
Why can't we all reach our full potential?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and if this has helped, you know, people reach out,
I
or
hope
gain
so.
some awareness.
I
then,
hope
you know,
so. And I
we've done a
still
good
very
thing.
much do that coaching, and that's what gives me my payback.
Yeah.
It's making
love
that difference.
I love that.
You absolutely do. Is there anyone that we should have in the hot seat where you are now that has been part of your journey or inspired you in terms of a leadership perspective?
When I first started my business, I got a meeting in a company whereby they did Christmas decorations, and I went there and I met with the HR lady, and she was very, very. I remember sitting opposite thinking, wow, she blew me away.
Yeah.
She blew me away with her confidence, her competence, her standing. And I thought, oh my God, you know, I'd come out of this world that I felt quite safe in manufacturing. And I need this contract, and I need it now, and I can make a difference for you, and I'm going to tell you how. And she said, look, I've heard all about MBQs. They've got a terrible reputation. I've invited you in, so I will listen to you, but I do need to be honest with you and share with you my initial thoughts. And I said, you've really helped me, being open with me and telling me how you feel, because I would not be sat in this chair if I thought I couldn't make a difference. And for you to listen to me,
Yeah.
I said, I find that incredibly positive, and you know, I'm excited about sharing with you what I can do for you. I did that, and she gave me the job. And Sam Carter, she'd actually come out of she was national HR manager, I think, for Asda, and she fought hard and got into manufacturing, and she loved it and been in it ever since. And where we moved around, I took her or she took me.
Lovely.
Because she was amazing. Her strive for fairness and equal opportunities, and she taught me a lot. I would go into her running at a shop floor with like 1,000 people. I had 1,000 people reporting to me once when I was MD, and she was my HR. And I'd go in and say, right, there's got to be changes. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. This is my plan. I like to run a business like a game of chess.
Yeah.
You make moves safely and carefully and kindly, and you give everyone a chance. What happened before doesn't matter. How do we go forward? And she worked with me on that, and we aligned.
Yeah, it's really important.
So she's still a friend today. I don't work with her today, but she was my guide, really. She was very, very intelligent, qualified to the hilt, but normal.
Nice.
Down to earth and grounded. Grounded is a word I
grounded,
like.
grounded and normal.
Amazing.
We love that.
Thank you so much. So sadly, we've come to the end of today's episode, but please like, follow, subscribe. Let's hear your comments. How has this impacted you? What are your takeaways? I know I've taken so much from today. It will live long in the memory. Thank you for listening and watching Leadership Actually, and join us next time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome.